Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
Intane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Kia ora, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. And what have I put into my knowledge over the last week? That, hey, I am actually in Africa at the moment, and this is going to sound very simple, but New Zealand is very, very far away. And I put that in the perspective of when we think about the world we live in, I think the world is connected. It is connected. It is connected digitally and all those other cool things. But physically, we're still crazy far away. And which is why it makes things like digital connection really important. But also when it comes to family as well, why family becomes important, especially when they live so far away. So my learning is, yes, we can be connected digitally, but sometimes the physical travel to somewhere to see someone that you care about or love or think about is probably even stronger for them and for you as opposed to WhatsApp call or message. If you have the ability to go and visit your loved one, go and do that because life is short. And talk about life is short. I'm so excited, so honored, so privileged to welcome our podcast guest this week. This is a young person, a young adult that I had the privilege of meeting, I guess, 12 years ago. And I say privileged because the way we met was through fate, I guess, through an application form. And just following their life story has been really inspirational, but also really real. So it is my pleasure, my honor, and my real humble joy to welcome to our podcast, Bella. Kia ora, Bella, and welcome to Boston Knowledge.
Kia ora, Praj. So happy to be here.
Bella, for people who know nothing about you, who is Bella today on the 5th of June, 2026?
Bella is well caffeinated, very happy to see an old friend again. And yeah, first podcast, so we'll just see how this goes. But if we zoom out a little bit, grew up in Wellington, New Zealand. I'm proudly Kiwi and both Greek. Currently residing in and around Europe, which I'm sure we'll get to later. But yeah, I'm sure we'll also get into work and stuff as well. But I guess that's the high level.
Yeah. I love the zoom out there, Bella, and I love how you talked about, you're proudly Kiwi. But I want to go back a little bit and let's think about the Bella I met, and go to or you all those many years ago. And if we said to Bella, hey, in 10 years' time, you are going to be traveling around Europe, living your best life, what would you have said to me at that point in time?
Probably would have laughed because, yeah, the version of my life that I was embarking on ahead of Otago University looked very different. I was, yeah, I was signed up to study a Bachelor of Physical Education, wasn't quite sure whether I would go down the PE teacher path, but I was very set on building a career locally while being half Greek and having the privilege of traveling quite a lot through both family trips and various sporting tournaments around the world. Um, I always saw myself in and around New Zealand. So through, I guess, a series of decision making, new learnings. I also got a big injury, which changed the trajectory of my athlete identity. Obviously, we went through COVID, so there were quite a few. I don't know if we call these sliding door moments, but series of events that really led me to where I am now, which you can never really plan for when you're a little guppy leaving high school for the first time, and yeah.
Yeah, and I love that because, a lot of us, when you're 18 or 19, people say to you, you've got to have your whole life ahead of you and planned out. But as you said just now, you have no idea. Life will throw things at you and you end up where you are because of decisions or curious moments that happen that define where you're going to go. But I'd love to talk about your journey along the way. As we spoke about, I've known you as a happy all go person, but I've also seen you when you've been in your darkest and things have just been challenging for you. And I think about that because, we think about life and we go, hey, we see one version. I'd love to know the version of yourself that people don't see where life was a bit of a challenge for you.
Yeah, so I happy to be very open about this. Have struggled with mental health on and off through most of my 20s. Number of reasons we could dive into society, education, but to speak to my experiences, I had a series of concussions, which obviously alter your brain, the physiology of your brain. Um, and a few life events that happen that don't really help someone with depressive tendencies. But I look back on those moments now with actually a lot of gratitude, because whenever you come out the other side of those moments, you learn so much about yourself. You learn about your capacity for resilience, and you learn who your tribe is, who your people are. And I'm very grateful to have such an awesome community around me. You spoke at the start of this podcast about the importance of seeing people physically, as well as digitally. And yes, while I'm very well connected around the globe now, I still hold my dear friends very close to my heart and prioritize as much as I can when I'm in a different continent, seeing those faces, and making those important memories. Because when the going gets tough in life, which it inevitably does, it's those people that I really rely on. Yeah.
I love that thing. I love how you just said that, people really matter. The people that matter will matter, and the people that don't matter, well, they just go into the, that's fine. We all have people like that. And life happens. And if you think about, I'm just going to focus a bit on your mental health struggles here a little bit before we shift focus, because I think it's important for people
Mm.
to realize that we all go through our struggles. And the hardest thing you have is the hardest thing you've ever felt. And as you think about when you were going through your struggle, what was the hardest thing for you to do in terms of, and I say this with lots of love and grace, in terms of when you're in that moment, everyone says you should do this, you should do that, but in that moment when you're in the darkest depths, what is the biggest challenge that you think you faced?
Um, I mean, the challenge is almost in the question, right? I mean, when you have people around you who love and care for you, who maybe just don't quite understand how you're perceiving the world in that present moment, and the weight of the you should be, could be statements and pressures is almost quite oppressive. And I know when I was in those moments, I sort of stripped, I mean, on reflection, looking back, this is one of the survival skills I learned, was just stripping it back to what is the smallest single action that I can take for myself that moves me one step forward. And I'm my own biggest, I don't know how to say that. I was going to say slave driver. That's not really appropriate. I was my own biggest judger, and so I've really had to learn to get out of my own way. And that operative word being learning, right? I'm really grateful to be here in a very abundant phase of my life. We were touching on briefly before we started recording. And again, the gratitude I have for that abundance now can only really come from being in those darker places when I was younger.
And I love it, but you can't have the dark without the light and the light without the dark. You have to have the yin and the yang for you to appreciate it.
Yeah, sounds a bit
Whether
cheesy, but it's so true.
it's the more I think about life and the work that I do, I'm like, actually all these cheesy things are actually really, really true, because like you said, gratitude can only happen when you realize what the opposite of gratitude is. When you don't have it, you go, oh, actually, damn, I need to.
Mm.
Now I know I'm thankful. And talk about gratitude. I'd love to talk to you about how you ended up in the middle of nowhere in Portugal. I'm just going to say the middle of nowhere because it's a small village. And yeah, how did you get up? How did you end up there?
Yeah, so to answer that, I need to take us back to when I first arrived in Europe.
Let's
Um,
go back.
I'd
Let's go
left,
back.
yeah. So I'd left New Zealand in July 2022, not necessarily as part of the Kiwi brain drain. It was more ready for a change with work. I'd actually just been dumped and needed to do something for myself, and bought the plane ticket with every intention of doing a short backpacky thing and then continuing my project management career in Berlin. Um, During that initial travel phase, I got my first remote job, and I wasn't making any money off this. It was more stemming the decline of my, or plateauing my bank account. So the 2 month backpacking trip turned into a 6 month one. And over that time, I met fantastic people, had incredible experiences, um, which then ended up with me doing a ski season in Austria. If anyone is listening and contemplating doing something like that, 10 out of 10, go do it, book the ticket, message me, I'll give you my contacts. Um, but I came out the other side of that season wanting to continue with remote work and being oh, quite stuck. I was applying for everything, nothing was coming out. And at that moment, I was considering giving up actually. And I'd actually broken my ribs at the end of that season. I was on a friend's couch in Vienna, feeling very sorry for myself. And then she decides to drag me to Prague. And it was in that Prague trip where I ended up meeting my first remote client. And, what started with sharing some beers on the side of a lacrosse pitch turned into an elevator pitch, which turned into a job, and I was very talk about gratitude. That sliding door moment really just unlocked everything else that came. And so after I got that job, which was like a proper remote job, I was like, right, I need to settle a little bit somewhere. So I chose Munich because I had a few friends there. And then 6 months later, after another winter in Austria, I thought, you know what? I'm too comfortable around Germany and Austria. I want to try something different. I want to move somewhere I haven't been before, get out of the comfort zone. So I asked my friends, hey, does anyone have an apartment in the Algarve somewhere? So for those who are listening, the Algarve is that south part of Portugal. And friend of a friend of a friend popped up with a room. I saw, yeah, cool, sounds good. The same day that I confirmed the apartment, I also bought a car, dealt with all the bureaucracy of registering a car in Germany. Oh my goodness, that was a marathon effort, and then ended up driving across the continent to start my new adventure. I mean, that was an adventure in itself. So when people ask me how did you end up in Algesur, it was very much a happy accident. Um, yeah, you should definitely come visit one day. It's beautiful.
Amazing. Oh, and what a beautiful story that is, because as you said before, this wasn't a plan. It just happened. A happy accident. You asked the question,
Mm,
a friend of a friend, and here you are right now. And but if I go back a little bit, what I really enjoyed was where you said you got too comfortable. And I
mm,
think if you think about anyone listening out there and myself as well, we live a life where we get very comfortable, and in our comfort, we forget the world is out there doing things, and it's so easy to stay
mhm.
comfortable. At the
Yeah,
start, I shared with you that I moved to Auckland 2 years ago, and yeah, it's still New Zealand, but it's totally different to what I was doing. But stepping out of my comfort zone to do that, it was pretty cool, and oops, I think we might have frozen. It was a real learning for me as well to realize that hey, it's so easy to become comfortable and just take things
mm,
easily. And as you said before, even though you're so far away, the comfort zone, it happens wherever you go, it doesn't matter. You can get comfortable
yeah,
and it's very easy.
yeah. It speaks a lot to, I think, how we grow and adapt and change. And I see it a lot in the pace that I was traveling before I got to Algesur. I was, the longest place I was in, even before Munich, it was like a month here or 2 months there. And it was scary when you start, but then you fill the space, your capacity expands, and then you kind of get hungry for more. But it can be really daunting. Step one, you've got to have the awareness. I'm too comfortable. I've got to do something about it. And then step two, actually doing the doing.
Yeah.
And that's the part that took me a while to build the muscle for. But now it's probably the pendulum swung almost in the too far with this healthy, is it Dunning-Kruger
Yep. Did I
effect, where
forget
you
effect?
this,
Yeah.
yeah, overly optimistic sense of I can do anything, and then your decisions catch up with you, and you're like, oh,
And then you go, right, cool, I'll deal with them when they happen. This is what happens, right? This is life.
exactly.
And but what is really cool there, Diana, because at the moment in my coaching world, I'm really talking to people about what you just said before. Everyone has awareness. Like awareness is abundant
Mm,
There's every podcast, every book out there. It's the difference in awareness and actually doing something about it. And I think that's where 99% of the people fail or fall because it's that first step. As you said before,
mm,
when you're going through your challenges, there's that one step. But we don't do that there. We
mm,
look at that, oh, how do I get there? Oh, I can't do it, so I'm not going to do it. I'm aware of how to get there, but I'm
mm,
not going to do it. Yeah. And
mhm.
I'm really curious about I've known you for a long time, and I've known you as always as a go-getter. Has this been something that's been instilled in you through your family, or has it just been this is who Bella was when she pops out? This is I'm going to explore the worlds.
I think being raised, yeah, shout out to mum and dad, you guys are great. They very much instilled a strong work ethic in me and my brother growing up. And you look at their lineage, right? My mum was the first of her family to go to university, and she got an MBA and ran a company called the Law Foundation. Amazing company. Look into that later. Dad, immigrant family, grew up and also worked incredibly hard and did incredible things in his career. So that was always modeled to me growing up. But I think the actual skill of doing things before you're ready is something that developed later in life. It's I talked about a muscle that you have to build over time, and it's scary. That one's really scary because you're dealing with fear of rejection, or particularly if it's in a work context, right? Not just, oh, let's go buy a plane ticket and move across a country, across the world, or even within the country. Hey, like that's a big step for lots of people as well. But I think it comes down to trusting yourself and your ability to be able to handle making the step into that unknown. And once you get the hang of it, it becomes very addictive, I think, for me anyway.
Yeah, and I guess, as you said before, it's always that first step before you become addicted to anything. This is anything in life, right? It's that first thing. And
Mm,
sometimes that first thing leads you to a different pathway. Sometimes you do it and you go, "Cool, I don't want to do it anymore." But
mm.
it's doing the thing, whatever the thing
Just got to
is.
do the thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Got to do the thing.
Couldn't agree
Got to do
more.
the thing. But also doing the thing requires you to go, hey, yes, there might be rejection. Yes, there might be people that don't like it. Yes, I might not like myself if I do this for a little bit, but I don't know unless I do.
There's another thing I saw recently, which kind of speaks to this, where let's say you're trying to learn a new skill, and in your head you've got the vision, you know exactly what you want to produce or create or achieve, but the gap between where you want to be and where you often start when you learn is so large, and that's the part where people often give up, right? Because we hold ourselves to the high standard, we set a goal, and maybe we're ambitious and we want to achieve it, but it takes a lot of those small, deliberate, repeated steps, particularly when you're uncomfortable, particularly when you haven't done it before, in order to actually see any visible progress. And something that really helped me build that muscle is relying on my community and my people around me. I mean, again, spoke about this earlier, but whether it's professionally or interpersonally, having good people around you, mentors, collaborators, peers, whatever they may be, they are almost the determining factor of whether I've succeeded or not when I've stepped into my unknowns.
Yeah, and that's so true. We forget about the environment, right? There's that saying about
Mm,
you are the five people you hang around with,
mm,
and more and more in my life, I think this is so so true. Whichever way you direct your life goes, the five people that are closest to you in whatever
mm.
aspect determine your trajectory.
Yeah, very much so. Which is scary sometimes when you look at it and you actually go, oh, who are my five people?
Yeah.
But it's a good opportunity, always an opportunity.
And then
Um,
I've also think about if who's am I number five of who am I five of? Like who am I the person that I'm the five persons of? Am I modeling things that they want? So, it's a quite crazy
mm.
circular way of thinking about things.
Yeah, true. I never thought about it in the reverse. But I
The
guess the
reverse.
onus would be on the individual to curate their five people appropriately. So, Yeah, just do
100%.
you, Praj. Focus on you.
Focus focus on that. Exactly. Yeah, that's awesome. Bella, the other thing that I really have admired about you is you always seem to have a smile on your face, even though you've gone through a challenging time in your life. And you leave people with the warmth. And I'd love to explore that a little bit because the exploration comes from a place of curiosity. This warmth that you have, is it something that you just go, hey, this is my world, this is who I am, versus some people who do it just because they want to gain things. I know you don't do that way there, but it's something that I'm sure people know about you, but or you know about yourself that this warm smile and this nature that you have is really, really I don't know what the word is, but it's quite infectious and contagious. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, and if people have commented that about you, whether you're in Vienna or in Berlin or in Munich or in Austria, that people just gravitate to you. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I have, and actually, my brother told me at the start of the year that he's like, yeah, you've got golden retriever energy, where you're just happy and trusting, and I think also it's potentially a Kiwi expat trait. I don't know if from my experience anyway, where we're a very open, humble people, right? And abroad, when you're particularly in the varying cultures within Europe, that each have their own quirks. Kiwis often stand out because we are approachable, we're really malleable, we fit into lots of different situations. And yeah, I'm aggressively optimistic in my life. In general, I'm not saying all New Zealanders are, but the combination of, I guess, both with me in Europe has definitely been really fruitful for both my experiences, being in the right place at the right time, saying yes to things, the connections that I've made both interpersonally and professionally. Um, a lot of it, I guess, could be drawn back to the fact that I don't know, I'm pretty happy and I love having a laugh with the people around me. I think it's very important.
And I think we can all learn from that, life, as I said before, life is too short and it's too short to be serious all the time. In fact,
Ugh,
yes, there's time to be serious, that we know that there. But if that's 10% out of your life, 90% is having a laugh, then, what more does one want?
exactly. Life's hard enough as it is. You got to have learn to have some fun with it, right? And I'm
100%.
I'm really trying to bring that into my work as well, and really selectively bringing on clients only that I get to bring the parts of myself to work that I want to. We spoke about this before the podcast, right? About being able to design your own life outside of the normal constraints of a 9 to 5, and getting to choose the people you spend the 8 hours a day, 4 5 days a week with work on is such a privilege. Oh my gosh, wouldn't change that for the world.
100%. And I love that you live in that world there, and a lot of people in the world are challenging that status quo. As you said before, the status quo requires someone, you need to be brave, you need to challenge an establishment. But also increasingly, a lot of establishments are breaking down and realizing actually this is not the way to live life. Well, some of them are not.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I love that there. But I'm going to switch a little bit and talk about. Tell me about living with chickens and the chickens that you have in your life.
The chickens, my blessed chickens. So, context, yeah, I live on a farm in Algesur, which is a rural town anyway, about 15 minutes away from the beaches. So you've got a beautiful array of surfers, farmers, hippies, yogis, and the odd digital nomad like me that passes through, or I stayed, right? And a big part of why I stayed was I found this studio where I get to essentially live on a farm, be a farm girl, but have no farm girl responsibilities, which is just great.
Winning. Yeah.
Yeah. So often I leave my door open, Portugal, it's hot, nice to have some airflow. And then, yeah, a couple of days later, these chickens started coming inside. And then I thought, oh, they're pretty cool. Started giving them some snacks and blah, blah, blah. The next thing I know, I befriended Becky. May she rest in peace. Becky has passed on. But she was very special. She used to sit on my lap when I was working. She would eat all the spiders in my house that I don't like. She would come to me when I was sitting outside reading my book. She was a special chicken.
Oh,
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Okay, there was a literal slide in the moment, right? Literally, the doors open and they popped in.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But since then, my house has been invaded by cats, dogs, small ponies recently. Percy,
Oh,
he is a retired therapy pony and he loves humans. And I was working away one day and I look over my shoulder and there's a horse in my house, which was quite comical. But I love it because as much as I live my life on my computer, doing my client work, building things with AI, I love the fact that when I close the laptop, I get to go outside and touch grass and
yeah.
have hobbies and um, connections with people that are just living life differently. And I actually think being in an environment like that, surrounded by people who perceive the world differently, has actually made me live a much richer life. Um, yeah, which is I think a big reason why I have stayed in Algesur for as long as I have.
How long have you been there now?
So I moved the base there in July 2024. But both winters I'd left to go back to Austria to work from, live from, ski
Okay.
from, which is, the perks of being a
Yeah.
digital nomad, where we don't really have a home, we have a series of bases
Yeah.
around either the world or the continent. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to talk about the digital nomad life. Everyone sees it on social media or whatever platform. What is the challenge in that of living that life there? And I'll start with the challenge first before we look at the awesomeness. But I'd like to start with the challenge because that's where we go to right cool. Before we can think about the awesomeness, let's think about the reality as well.
Yeah, of course. So before I dive in, I think it's important to note that, yes, you've got digital nomads and you've got people living the normal 9 to 5 life. Both lives have sets of problems, right?
Yeah.
And I think from my own experience, by choosing a digital nomad life, it's not like I'm choosing a life that doesn't have problems. I'm choosing the different set of problems. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people don't appreciate that. They see the headlines or the Instagram story of being in a different country, city, continent, and they, your life's amazing. But it's actually really hard. And it's taken me about 4 years to learn how to live like this sustainably, um, financially. Finding clients, that's a big challenge. No one really teaches you how to go and sell yourself and pitch and network. It's something that you have to learn on the fly because you got to eat, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then I think the other one that I really struggled with, which only became apparent when I stayed still long enough to get my community in Algesur, was that traveling at pace can be really lonely. It can be really isolating. Yes, you've got this beautiful ability to sort of not reinvent yourself, but I called it embracing the different parts of myself. What version of me am I when I'm in Barcelona? What version of me comes out when I'm in London? And it's great, but doing that sustainably takes time. And I think there's a pendulum, right? You start at one end. This is how I also live my life a lot, where you always push the boat out too far, hit your edge, and go, oh, let's find the middle ground. So it's a work in progress, but a testament to how I feel like I've been growing that muscle is this year alone, I've been in 4 different continents. Um, I've lost count of the cities for various family reasons, life reasons, work reasons. And it's great, I'm still energized. I'm still able to keep up with work, keep up with my friends, and yeah, but it's taken a while to get there.
And what's so beautiful there, Bella, is how you have spoken about that problems are part of life. We have problems, and it's just you're just shifting your problems. You go like you're from a 9 to 5. My problems are X, Y, Z. If I'm on digital nomad, my problems are ABC. And this is part of life, right? And we can't escape problems.
Mm,
Or actually, if I rephrase that, you can't escape challenges. They all have challenges, whatever we do. But again, like you said before, it's how you face those challenges. It's very easy to give up. And as you said before, you use
mm,
the word muscle quite a bit, and I love that because like every muscle, if you don't train it, it's going to atrophy. And if you do train it, it gets stronger, it's stronger, but it just means that you can still build more. It doesn't mean that it's
yeah.
going to be strongest you go, right, cool, I'm now be able to take on another challenge that I wouldn't be able to do 3 weeks ago. But yeah, so I love the way you put that there. And I'm going to
Oh,
switch now and talk about the awesomeness. Tell us about the awesomeness about the life that you lead as a digital nomad.
I love it. Yeah. So I basically have so much autonomy over my life. I spoke about the ability to choose the people I want to work with, choose the location I get to work from. Um, I get to, my friends have a bachelorette party. Yep, perfect. I'll book the flight. Don't need to think about leave. Don't need to think about anything. I get to just live my life. And again, that speaks to very high trust with the clients I do have, right? Like I do care about um, doing I care about my job. I love what I do actually. But again, a big part of that is I've been able to design the career I want, design the people I want to work with, design for the people. Um, every day looks very different. One week I'm on the vineyard picking grapes, pruning. The next I'm in a big city at a conference. The week after I don't know. I don't know often because I don't actually plan too far ahead. Having said that, I am planning my fifth continent maybe in October. Um, might go to India for the first time for a wee conference down there, but we'll see.
I reckon when you go to India, it'll be a whole different world for you as well. I mean, I'm going to pre-frame this as well.
Yeah,
I think India is one of the only places in the world where every single sense in your body comes alive. Every sense
yeah.
comes alive.
All right, there you go. It's confirmed. I have to
There we
go.
go.
I have to see.
There we go. There we go. Done. See, feel,
Yeah,
touch, yet all five senses, and we'd love to know how that goes.
yeah. I'll definitely report back.
Yeah.
And also one other thing to add on the awesomeness, I guess I've spoken a lot about people in my community, but I really do feel like I have so many amazing people in my life that I never would have met had I not had the autonomy and the flexibility to travel and explore, and also enough to build enough time into my weeks to actually keep in touch with them, whether that's digitally or in
In person.
person. So yeah, it's very, very cool part of my life that I'm very grateful for actually.
And I think this is why I'm enjoying this conversation, Joe, because a lot of and hopefully people listening as well realize that when you again, there's no right or wrong, but when you are constrained by a 9 to 5, and life, I mean, there's no good or bad, but it's just an awareness piece that in the 9 to 5 that you don't have freedom of time to meet random people and spend some time with random people. As you said before, Bella, you have the 8 hours with the people that you get to work with, and then you've got to
Mm,
go home or you've got to live your other life. But as you said before, when you have flexibility of time, space, money, and also availability, you can then meet people that would just say, "Hey, I would never have crossed paths with you if I just gone to my whatever my 9 to 5 is." Um,
mm,
yeah, it's just a different awareness piece there. So thank you for bringing that up. I just thought about that now, which is really
yeah,
cool. Uh,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's really profound. My brain is thinking about that quite a lot now. Yeah,
Appreciate it. Not it's not often that people call me profound, but I'll take it.
you just take it, just take it. Talking about profound and talking about taking it. At the start we spoke about LinkedIn, and for those of you who are listening
Oh,
and you're on LinkedIn, I'd love Bella to share about. I really really love your posts. I think they make me smile, they make me laugh, they make me think about things. And you shared at the start why you've gone down the path there, but I'd love you to share with our audience as to why your posts are really they're very clever. They're also very funny, but they're also are not the stereotypical LinkedIn way of posting.
yeah. So speaking of the challenges of working remotely, is you don't have the water cooler chats or often the inbuilt networks of working in a big organization or even in, working in Wellington. If you're in the CBD, you kind of see everyone, you hear everyone. So making a conscious effort to network digitally is, yeah, was a goal I set for myself on LinkedIn at the start of the year. And you know, often as a Kiwi, if you're on LinkedIn, it's a bit cringe, right? Everyone's talking about their promotions, everyone's talking about, I don't know, crap, really. I got married last weekend, and here's what it taught me about B2B sales. No one wants to read that. So for me, I've worked really hard to try and just have some fun with it. And that's translated itself into about 5 virtual coffees this year alone. I've been able to connect people in my network for different work opportunities. I've got myself a new client, and that's only from 5 months of consistent posting. And it's just a really good exercise when you have to make your work visible. Um, I don't. It's How do I explain it? It was a great challenge of the imposter syndrome of the, oh, who am I to speak as if I'm an expert about this topic? Or, you know, who am I? Why would people care about what I'm doing? So learning to discount those voices and just do it anyway has been a big challenge and one that I'm slowly getting the hang of. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I don't overanalyze the majority of my posts. But I'm that number, yeah, it's getting better the more months I'm on there doing it.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you shared it there because I think back to when I first started posting on LinkedIn consistently, I had those same fears until somebody said to me, I don't know what it was, or maybe I heard it somewhere, they were like, nobody actually cares what you post. Like
Mm,
nobody actually cares apart from you. And I was like, this is true. And if I like what I'm posting, that's all that matters. And I realized that really, really true. And somebody said to me, if you're not going to read if you're not going to read your own post, why would anyone else read it? I was like, this is true. That shifted my whole way of thinking. I thought, okay, cool. And I'm just saying
yeah.
that was my head shift. And
Yeah.
and then I read somewhere else or maybe I meditated this and it came through. It was just like, just do it for yourself. Like just
Yeah.
treat it like a journal for yourself. And this is what I do. I just treat it as a journal for myself. And then, as you said before, whatever happens will happen.
Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, I do some ghostwriting for my clients. So ghostwriting, if you're not aware, it's the act of producing comms, copy, um, managing someone's LinkedIn page for them. And it's really different when you're posting on LinkedIn for yourself versus doing it for a specific outcome. Often it's lead generation or it's brand awareness. And then there's the distinction between a personal brand and a company's brand. And without getting into the boring details of that, I think if you're considering working remotely or wanting to move into a digital nomad way of living, having a personal brand is one of the most advantageous things that you could do for yourself. Touching on, we are in an attention economy, and if you can learn how to bring visibility to yourself and your work and the way you think, the way you make decisions, I think it's a superpower and it will open a lot of doors.
Yeah. You know what's so cool about that, Bella, is this is one thing I wish we learned at school or at university that the power of the personal brand is so important. It doesn't matter whether you're a digital nomad or whatever it is. Increasingly, I
Mm,
think every single day in every conversation that you have, it is about you are talking about yourself, but not in a sales pitch way. But hey, this is who I am, and
mhm,
I just see, we speak about the Stanley Hendricks before at the start, and we speak about people that are doing that there. It's all about your own personal brand, and as you said just before, the more you articulate what you do and who you are as a human being, things start coming. But if we don't know how to articulate that and we don't understand that our personal brand is, it follows us from
mm,
the day we are born to the day we die. That's just one thing that's constant,
yep.
right?
And
So yeah.
one thing I would say as well is it's with the rise of AI, it's really not that hard to actually get started with this. Obviously, um, it's not using AI just to generate your LinkedIn posts for you, but something that I did, which is a really helpful exercise I would recommend for anyone. At the end of last year, I finished up a contract with a quite a challenging startup, and I was on the verge of a little burnout. I thought, right, let's prevent this from happening again. So I gave all of my past work experience into ChatGPT. I got it to interview me as if it was a career coach or a life coach. Um, it helped me map out all the work that I think I liked and would energize me in future client work. And then I got it to switch to being a aggressive headhunter or recruiter and point out all of the gaps that I had in my skill set and what engagements I needed to look for in order to get the type of roles that I wanted. And here I am telling this to a coach. It's just something you probably help your people with anyway. But it really helped me through that work. That was when I first realized I needed a personal brand or some form of visibility online to really open those doors for me. And yeah, AI was a big part of helping me get there.
I like the word love a lot. What I really enjoy about that is a lot of us don't do a gap analysis in our life. Whether we use
Mm,
AI or whatever, we don't do a gap analysis. We don't go, all right, cool, I want to get to wherever I want to get to, whatever it is. And where we're at the
mm,
moment, and we don't think about, okay, cool, how do we fill the gap? We just either go, it's too hard, or it's just too far. But I love the way you said that we can now leverage AI to actually help us with the gap analysis. And going back again to what you said right at the start was, once you have the gap analysis filled, what is the one tiny step you can take?
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the most. I don't know. This is a very topical conversation, hey, where people either love AI or they hate AI. Um, and I don't think enough of the good AI stories actually reach the headlines because they're
Yeah.
not the ones that grab the attention. I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago back in Portugal where my cousin was keynoting. He's Marty, if you're listening to this, sorry, I've forgotten your job title, but he's a exec in Microsoft, very well versed with AI things. And in his keynote, he said something to the effect that the genie's already out of the bottle, right? The AI is here. How countries decide to legislate and wrap the red tape around it will slow the advancement, but it's not going back in the bottle. So
Yeah.
I think the more that we learn how to leverage it now for ourselves in the best ways possible, the better. I owe a lot of my, not a lot of my, I'm a pretty successful person, but AI has really helped me, particularly step into environments, spaces that I hadn't been before, to really, yeah, I've been able to really leverage it well. And I would recommend everyone to start playing with it if they're not already.
Yeah, and a few years ago, one of our podcasts, we had somebody on, and I remember this really profound statement that he said is everybody learns about AI at the exact same time. AI was revealed to us globally, forget about the companies, but every single one of us
Mm,
learned about ChatGPT at the same time, essentially, when it got released. And that meant every single one of us were at the same start line.
mm,
And now some people are still at the start line because they worry about the fears, and others have taken off one at the 100 meter, 200 meter line.
mm,
And the people at the start line cannot blame the others because they chose not, they were stuck by fear. And
mm,
as you said before, the race has started, the race is on, the genie's of the bottle. It's now
mm.
it's we just go, right, cool, how are we going to use it versus how all the fears that we have. And there's going to be fear, like there's fear in everything, but it's not going to stop it. The race is running.
Yeah, I mean, Praj, question for you. Are you using AI at all in
Uh-huh.
your life?
100%. AI is part of my life. AI is I remember when AI first came out, Bella, you'll laugh at this, yeah. When AI came out, I took it to Cheryl. Remember Cheryl? And I said to Cheryl, this is
Mhm.
amazing. This is so cool. And she was like, this is a waste of time. I was like, no, this is so crazy. So I was in the office, always just playing with AI. But that was when it was like you had like two tokens and you couldn't do anything with it. Like you just go, it just died. And
Yeah.
you could just, yeah, like, oh. So I remember I showed her that AI wrote this little poem. I said, write a poem about, and she's like, oh, I could do that. And I was like, cool. But back to your question, that was many years. That was when it started. AI is now, I mean, I used it for a lot of things. But again, it's with discernment, right? So you think about, okay, I'm not asking you to think for me. I'm giving it a problem or situation that I don't know what to do. And I use that to then help me with even with my LinkedIn posts and stuff. I use like AI to help me with that there to think about, okay, does this actually make sense? Is what I'm writing actually make sense? I mean, is this, it's a sense check for me. And then put in who else has already written about this stuff here? Is it the norm? Yeah, I definitely use it. I was showing my parents with it yesterday about how my mum's doctor, and I had some blood tests done, and I just wanted to show her how AI, how lifelike AI is in terms of interpreting results. And I've been using Claude for a long, long time. I'll go back a little bit. When AI first came out, I Googled what is the best AI tool to use. So Anthropic was obviously the leader at that point in time, but nobody knew about Anthropic because ChatGPT was out there. And at that time, Claude was terrible. Like interface was bad, but I was like, okay, I'll go with this. And now it's just blown up, which is pretty crazy. But anyway, I showed her Claude yesterday and I showed her the results, and it said exactly what she would have said to me. And she was blown away. She was like, this is actually ridiculous. And it's like, this is it. This is, yeah. Um, yeah, so AI is here.
I think
It's
I think
amazing.
we're really going to see a lot of changes across all industries, right? It will affect everyone slightly differently.
Yeah,
But we're not there yet. We've got a bit of time. And I think
yeah,
I don't know if you're using this yet, but this helps me a lot with LinkedIn ideation and turning one sort of content idea into multiple, is using this annotation software called Whisper Flow, where I don't really type anymore. I speak to
yeah,
my LLM, and it allows me to articulate the response and the output that I want better. So it's a more I'm getting better outputs out of Claude. But yeah, I
yeah.
would highly recommend that if you're not talking to your laptop yet.
Whisper flow. So good. So cool. Um, and also the other thing that I think is really important is at the start we spoke about, education and KPIs. And this is where I'm sitting in a juncture where I go, the purpose of education is not going to shift dramatically, going to we've got AI, we've got these LLMs. So going into tertiary, whatever actually any education piece, how is that going to shift? No, and when is it going to shift? Because it has to shift. And when do we? Yeah, I just have this huge dichotomy of a dilemma in my brain about the purpose of education or the way education is going to change with AI because it has to change. We can't keep
Mm,
doing what we're doing.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, you're the more wizened educator out of the two of us. So I'm not entirely sure what those changes would look like. There are dystopic models I've seen where, it's all digital, kids, I don't know, the curriculum is changing, but yeah, I can't speak to what that looks like. And I don't have children yet. My brother and sister-in-law had their first child October last year, who is a complete angel who just started crawling. But she, I think a lot about the world that she's going to grow up into, which is going to be so different to the world that I grew up in as a child, to how you grew up as a child. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't apprehensive about it because there are a lot of unknowns.
Yeah. But what do we know? We know that the sun's going to rise every day. And if we can remember that there, and we know that, okay, is there a piece of grass for someone to go and put their feet in? The rest is the rest is
Yes.
whatever is going to be right. I think, and I'm going back to what you what you said just before, at the end of the day, you can turn off your laptop and go and find a piece of grass to ground yourself. And I think sometimes we are so busy living a life of whether it's a digital nomad,
Mm.
whether it's a 9 to 5, that we forget that actually the world is still the world. It's still out there. And in how often do we take time to just enjoy that?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, Bella, we've been
I
talking
love
for
that.
about, yeah, we could keep talking for hours and hours. But I respect your time and I respect you as a human being. I'd love to end the podcast by asking you one question that we ask every single one of our guests. Our podcast is called Baskets of Knowledge, and every episode we invite our guests to share a piece of knowledge to put into our baskets. You've shared lots today. What is one piece of knowledge you'd like to put into our basket? And everyone has the same reaction that you had just now. It's the same.
Yeah. Um, okay. I'm trying to add a different piece of knowledge than one of the topics I've shared. Perhaps something about the wine, the winemaking I do. Actually, is this like a fun fact, Praj, or is it like a
It can be anything. It could be anything that you go, hey, if someone listens to it and go, oh, this is pretty cool. I can actually put in my life or just learn something new. Doesn't matter. It's all whatever you want to interpret it as.
you really put me on the spot here.
Great.
I'm gonna just drop in a fact around one of Portugal's biggest exports are cork that get used for the majority of the wines, cork bottles, corks for their wine bottles, and we have a great local provider for our wine. I don't know. Here's my fun fact about Portugal's export. Sorry, Praj, this is what happens when you put me on the spot. My brain defaults to wine.
Hey, as long as it's about the wine, but not the whining, that's all good. That's all that matters.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been such a pleasure seeing you again after all
Yeah.
the years. And
Yeah,
yeah,
thank you. Thank you. That's a great piece of that's a great piece to put into our basket, really. If you think about it, lots of people in the world drink wine, but nobody actually thinks about the cork that people, pop up. It's amazing. Bella,
exactly.
Bella, it's been amazing. Like I said before, your life trajectory is so fascinating. I'm really lucky to have met you all those years ago and you reconnect again, all these years later. And the thread that I really enjoyed in today's podcast has been about just living out of your comfort zone. It is easy to be comfortable. It is easy to live in your comfort zone. And we're not saying there's nothing wrong with that there. But if you have the edge and if you have the curiosity to do that, take the first step. And you can always go back, but taking that first step is going to change your life in whatever way it is. So I really, really appreciate the way you spoke about that. And yeah, thank you, Bella, for jumping on. And one of these days, we will come and visit you and your chickens and your horses and your cats and your dogs and your spiders as well in,
Oh,
in your
no,
little
screw
village.
those guys. Well, no,
Beautiful.
I'd be more than happy to welcome you and any of the extended Kiwi whānau and my little pocket of Portugal. Um, but who knows? I might be in another continent. So
Who knows?
keep in
Exactly. Who
touch.
knows? Exactly. Who knows?
Yeah.
To everyone listening, hopefully you enjoyed this podcast and hopefully you've also picked up that, as Bella said, that we all go through challenges and every one of us has challenges in our life. We just choose a different set of challenges and we have a choice over that there. Until next time, don't forget to find a reason to smile every day. Don't forget to put something to your basket of knowledge. And don't forget to think about the cork if you do drink wine and think about where it comes from. Because that's a new fact you think about. Till next time, kaki everybody. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.